Alrighty, I'll get on. The thylacine, otherwise known as the Tasmanian tiger, is a very fascinating animal, in my opinion, and I think many people around the world tend to agree. And it's been extinct for, I believe, almost 100 years, not quite, maybe 85, 90 years is more accurate. And I will say, from learning a little bit about it, probably a couple years ago now, I know that people still think that there's sightings out there. I think, maybe there's a small percentage possibility that some sort of animal similar to it, some cousin of it, or literally Tasmanian tigers themselves, a very small population could be alive, although I'd say that chance would be pretty damn low. But regardless, they're generally recognized as definitely extinct. And I've seen bits and pieces of over the years, I'm sure you guys have heard this even more than me, that they're going to bring them back or whatever. I don't know if it's taken seriously or a meme at this point or what. We're looking at a news story that we're going to look at together that supposedly this is actually for real now. This is actually happening. They're going to bring it back. Sounds pretty crazy. That's kind of beyond my scope of understanding, beyond my expertise. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look. This was suggested very recently on Discord by TGirl009. Always great stuff from you. I appreciate that. And of course, this comes from 9 News Australia. Let's go ahead and take a look.
To bring back to life, not dinosaurs, but the Tasmanian tiger.
Such a tease.
I know.
Industry leaders toured the labs of Melbourne University yesterday to discuss the next steps to reintroduce this extinct marsupial. Exciting. We've seen the dire wolves return.
Yeah.
Could the Tassie tiger be next?
The dire wolves? We'll have to look that up after. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a project we've been working on for about 20 years in partnership now with Colossal
20 years.
Biosciences, the company that did the direwolf projects. And we're developing all of those technologies now to actually bring those species back.
Look at that.
And then the meeting we have going on at the moment is really talking about how we actually put that animal then back into Tasmania and making sure that we have everything in place for when that's going to happen.
Wow. So this sounds like it's, at least they're confident that this is really happening. So much so they're bringing it back and figuring out how to actually put it back in, out in the wild where it's supposed to be. I just love looking at these old clips. That picture, first of all, right? It's kind of a unique animal, right? They have those kind of long snouts, long, elongated mouth almost. Kind of a unique face, right? Kind of more narrow eyes. But then, of course, they have those stripes that are kind of subtle, and they get bigger towards the rear of the animal. I just think they're very unique. They're very, very cool. And, of course, like anything, I feel like it's human nature to just find stuff that was around and it's gone now. I think people find that stuff fascinating when it's something it's like we don't have anymore.
Saw the skull, and then we're seeing black and white vision. How do you actually do it, and how far away?
Yeah, so, de-extinction science is a relatively new area of biology. It's not science fiction anymore. We can actually do this. We can actually bring back these lost species. But the way it...
See, right there, that sounds crazy. I don't follow this type of stuff super closely. So, I'm must be out of the loop. But the fact that they're just very straight up saying that this is a thing now, that's not science fiction anymore. That is pretty crazy to hear because it does seem like so outrageous or science fiction to me. But of course, I don't follow this closely. I think that's very fascinating. I think it's one of those things you have to kind of think about carefully. And I'm sure people will have different opinions. I'm sure people would, some people would be jumping up and down happy about that. I'm sure other people would be very concerned or maybe even against it. I'm not very sure what to think about it. I'm kind of in the middle. I could see reasons for disliking this and liking it. I think overall, I'm, fascinated by it, that the fact that they can even do that. And I guess just because, like most people, I have some sense of curiosity and they'll want to, gain knowledge and see stuff that you haven't experienced before. Like, I guess part of me is pretty excited that they could bring back certain things. I just think that's so wild, right? I think that's a capability that you usually don't think is real, but apparently it is. So I guess it's pretty interesting. The bigger concern is how do you bring it back the right way, right? You don't want to bring it back and then end up causing other problems.
It works is we still can't create life where there is none. So you have to start with a living cell. And so what we do is we can sequence all the DNA now of our extinct species, and we've done that for the thylacine. Every single bit of its genetic code has been sequenced by us in Colossal Biosciences. Once you've got that, you can then use that to figure out what is the closest living relative to that extinct animal. And that's a small mouse-sized marsupial called a fat-tailed dunnart.
Let's look up what that is. Fat-tailed dunnart. Oh, cool. It came up. So I wouldn't have known how to spell that. So this is what's so random. Obviously, this type of industry is way above my my pay grade. I'm not well versed in this at all. But it's pretty weird. I guess this is how it could just be random, right? It's pretty weird that this is very genetically similar. Similar enough that they can use this as a building block to bring back the thylacine. Like, look at this. What? Like, how is that? That's not what I would have guessed. That's hilarious. Fat-tailed dunnart is a species of a mouse-like marsupial of the, whatever that word is, the family that includes the little red caluda, quolls, and the Tasmanian devil. Wow, interesting.
And then you just compare their DNA code. And so it turns out the dunnart is about 99.9% identical to a Tasmanian tiger.
Wow.
And so if you edit that 0.1% of their code that's different, you're turning that now living dunnart cell into a Tasmanian tiger cell. And then you can use standard cloning like we used to make Dolly the sheep then to actually turn that cell back into a whole animal. And then there's our thylacine. It's super easy.
Well, just with your eyes closed, right? Look, it is very...
Yeah, super easy. Definitely. Sounds easy enough. When you're bored sometime, you can try it yourself in the backyard. That is pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy to hear. The whole cloning thing freaks me out too. That is so bizarre.
Cool science, but why? Why are you bringing things back from extinction?
Yeah, so the real reason behind this is all conservation-based. And so the Tasmanian tiger played this absolutely critical role in Tasmania. It was the apex predator, so those animals that sit right at the top of the food chain. And they are so important for balancing out all the other animals in that ecosystem. And so when you lose them, you start to lose all of that balance. And the first thing that we've seen is the Tasmanian devils in Tasmania getting that terrible facial tumour disease that would render them completely extinct. And the reason that disease is there is because you don't have Tasmanian tigers eating those sick animals and removing them from the population, so they just continue to spread that disease. So that's just one example we know of many, 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 where that balance in Tasmania has been thrown off. And if we want to protect that really precious Tasmanian ecosystem, the only way really to do that is to put this amazing animal back into that place.
Okay.
Wow. Do you guys, please, whether you agree or disagree, that's totally fine. I want to hear your kind of viewpoints on that kind of angle, right? So say they bring it back successfully. They're able to bring this thing back, and they can put this thing back into the wild where it needs to go. Is this actually a good strategy for bringing this thing back and actually help as a conservation effort for other species and just the whole ecosystem as a whole? That's something I didn't expect to hear on a report about bringing back something, famous from the extinction, right? That's kind of an interesting angle. I suppose that could be plausible. Now, I wouldn't know, so I can't say that, oh, yeah, that sounds great, or, oh, no, he's, full of baloney. I can't say, but I feel like that could work, maybe. I guess because it's, something that was still alive relatively in the grand scope of, the universe and the planet and all that, it was alive like yesterday, right? Like 80, 90 years is not that long ago. And of course, you would be putting it back to where it was found before. It's not like you're introducing it somewhere random across the world where it's not supposed to be. So I guess it shouldn't be too dangerous, I wouldn't think, but maybe there's something I'm not thinking of. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, whether you kind of agree with that sentiment or disagree.
When are we going to have a theme park with dinosaurs?
Yeah, it just makes me think of Jurassic Park every time.
Yeah, so no DNA left in dinosaur bones. Spoiler alert, sorry about that. DNA lasts maximum about 2 million years. And
that's kind of a relief. Jurassic Park, I'm sure, I enjoy it as much as the next guy. I'm sure many of you have seen that and stuff. I think they're fun. But that is a fantasy. I'm not in any hurry to have velociraptors and Tyrannosaurus Rexes and you name it, right? I'm not in any hurry to see those alive and well in person and have them roaming around. I wouldn't trust that process.
Dinosaurs went extinct.
And I don't think that's going to happen. That is fantasy and sci-fi, unfortunately, because they're from so long ago.
60 million years ago. So
Yeah.
this is a good technology for more recently extinct animals, but
Yeah.
can't be used for dinosaurs.
Do you revive careers as well?
There are limits to what science can do.
That's awesome. I love the humor, even on Australian news. It's always some good humor thrown in there. I love how just kind of casual and flowing it is. They can bring back a Tasmanian tiger, but they can't cure cancer yet. Yeah, that's how it seems sometimes. Why don't we do more to protect the animals we have left? Well, supposedly he said that's what this is for, is that it's going to help. Our ancestors are responsible for the Tasmanian. So if there's a chance to rewrite our wrongs or bring them back, it's a no-brainer. We don't have a choice. Don't shoot them this time. Dude, that's true. You can't trust. Crappy humans are so bad. That would be, unfortunately, a possibility in this world, right? Even say you had this monumental breakthrough and you could bring back something awesome, and then just idiots go hunt them or poach them or whatever. It's like, oh my God, bro. The fact that that's even a possibility on the table is frustrating. All right, we have to look up the whole direwolf thing because I wasn't aware of that. So the fact they already brought something back is pretty crazy. Okay, it comes up. Let's go ahead and go here. In 2025, the company Colossal Biosciences announced that they had produced 3 direwolf pups using ancient DNA and gene editing to recreate the extinct species. These pups, named Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, are essentially hybrid animals with 99.9% gray wolf DNA, but with direwolf traits like larger size and distinct coat color. So that's what they look like. This is from April, so this is really recent. I guess I wasn't aware of this one. Like, Tasmanian tigers are super famous, so I've always heard of those even before this channel. I've never heard of a direwolf, so I guess that doesn't hit the same for me, but that's pretty interesting if that's what they're supposed to look like. If you check the wiki, it says a direwolf is an extinct species of canine, which is native to the Americas 125 to 10,000 years ago. Holy smokes. It was named in 1858, 4 years after the first specimen had been found. The largest collection of its fossils have been obtained from the Rancho La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles. So I wasn't about to look at that whole Wikipedia. It was extremely long. So I'm going to look it up here. When did it go extinct? Around 13,000 years ago. So that's actually kind of crazy. It was on Game of Thrones, apparently. I didn't watch that show. I know it's super famous. So that's maybe why I missed how famous these are. But it's gained near mythical status. It was a real animal that roamed around. It became extinct towards the last ice age around 13,000 years ago. So I guess that's pretty impressive. Although, like, I'm not downplaying it at all, but they did, bring it back. But they said it's basically like a gray wolf with direwolf traits. I don't know if it's like, is it really a straight up direwolf like you would have found thousands of years ago? I guess that's kind of that kind of gray area where it's like, is it or isn't it, even though it's close. I don't know. This is kind of above my head. It is pretty interesting, though. And, this was suggested, and I'm glad I took a look at it because that story was interesting, how it seems like they're very close, or this is like definitely happening with the Tasmanian tiger. And the fact that it's actually being looked at from like an angle that will help the ecosystem around there and be a conservation effort. I thought that was pretty interesting. Again, I would love your thoughts on this. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate these awesome suggestions as well. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, y'all. Catch you later.